of the Zagreb office of Heinrich Böll Stiftung, a German green political foundation. Since 2012, he's been the national correspondent for Green European Journal, and from 2012 to 2017, he was the managing board member of the National Foundation for Civil Society Development here in Croatia. From 1998 to 2004, he worked as a journalist and web editor in the daily political newspaper Vjesnik and correspondent to international newspapers. He's a trained sociologist, specialized in human rights, regularly publishing on European politics, civil society development, environmental justice, climate transition, and migration. Vedran was also a member of the board of directors of the Brussels-based Green European Foundation since 2019 and associate of Amsterdam-based Transnational Institute. Vedran, here you go. You may start with your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you again for invitation. Goran explained I will trying to connect these two universes of media production and political ecology, which are not by default very close, but I will try to make build some bridges and highlight some of the connections, how political ecology perspective can be useful for those of you who are involved in media production. Currently, we all know that we are living in a very uncertain period, not only because of geopolitical context, but because we live in the times of climate crisis, which is also a resource crisis, and we are dealing with reconsideration of our life and thinking of how much some sort of systemic change is possible in order to ensure future for the next generations and also for not only environmentally friendly but also socially just. Many of you probably have seen already this photo, this image of so to say graveyard of cars in Valencia, which was a result of the severe flood. We also have heat waves. One of the warmest year was this year that actually took 60,000 of lives only in Europe. And we, of course, somehow know that we are all responsible for it, but some are more responsible, particularly taking into account the still prevailing fossil fuel base of our energy production and consumption or overconsumption, so to say. So together with some of the authors, we can say that Earth is rapidly moving into less biologically diverse, less forested, much warmer, and probably wetter and stormier state. And the implication is that we are approaching a global ecological tipping point from which we may never recover. In this presentation, I will try to focus on 4 points. One is to present briefly the theoretical and disciplinary framework of political ecology, and in this context, maybe to dive deeper into resource management aspects of in the media production, also to tackle environmental, social, and economic aspects of the industry itself, which have to be more closely considered to understand some of the effects, explore alternative avenues of action and which can be applied or could be applied in some of the phases of media production, and also open some questions that can be useful for discussion that are particularly related to some controversies. But before going there, I will start with some sort of very short episode or to some extent joke. Well, I'm myself very frequent visitor of one of the islands in Croatia, which is called Vis. And this island was some 7-8 years ago was a destination where the second version of Mamma Mia. So the Here We Go Again, the famous Hollywood blockbuster, was screened. And I take that as some sort of symbol of this intervention, as I think that there was a one case, of course, that all people from the island were thrilled and fascinated that all Hollywood famous actors, celebrities will come to this island, and the whole local community has been very much, fascinated about that. There will be months and months of shooting on the small distant island in Mediterranean or Adriatic Sea. And among many other things, and this is just to say about this episode, and we will come back then maybe with our thoughts again to it. There were, of course, hundreds of people coming there to the island, which was in the winter time. It is very silent, small island. But in this case, the whole shooting machinery has been dynamizing during that year the life of the island, and among others, they also had many animals that supposed to take active role in the movie, and one of them was goat, one of the goats who has been trained to be fit for the role, so to say, for a few months. And suddenly, the whole cooperation between the local farmer and producers, Hollywood producers, stopped because they found out that the goat is pregnant. And the owner of the goat said, "No way she will play in the movie." And he was very, radical in that and terminated in order to stop her role in the movie. They wanted, they increased pressure against him. They wanted to sue him. They wanted to, all of this legal stuff. But he was really persistent and said, "No, I want my goats to be, to have, so to say, maternity leave, and that she has to rest, and she will not work." And this is actually just a very small but very true example of how certain how interaction between certain media production machinery and life of the local community plays in the some sort of collision or conflict of the two worlds. And I will be talking, because I will be talking about political ecology, where idea of degrowth plays a very important role, while we know that the very majority of the media production is still very much actively anchored into the current economic system that is really based on growth. And this very short episode is just to highlight some of these tensions that exist, which are in this way very benevolently presented. So for political ecology, it is important to explain very briefly that the main focus of political ecology as a discipline is to say that the distribution of risks and the benefits related to some environmental change in society are unevenly distributed. And maybe in the context of production chain or chains, but that can be applied also to media production, it's very much often related to social justice or to environmental footprint of certain production process. So from political ecology, we want to take a look into media production. We will, of course, be observing material throughput and the intensity, the resource intensity of whole production process. But we will also not ignore that the whole production process is a result and actually contingent outcome of power, of political power, and not a neutral terrain. Because somewhere, someone has decided that certain resources or clients, will be selected for certain, and we will be carrying certain message. So all that is really much colored, although not very often not in the at first glance. It's also not only about focusing on people and on nature and ecosystem. It's also about focusing on well-being of people, of the collective, working collective, of the workers in the whole process. So political ecology actually seeks to expose flaws in dominant approaches to the environment, which are often favored by the state, corporations, or international authorities, and actually working to demonstrate the undesirable impact of policies and market conditions, especially from the point of view of local people, marginal groups, and vulnerable populations, all of those which are maybe not privileged in society. It is also, political ecology is also some sort of critical historiography, and it is also very much based on myth-busting research. So it is really much trying to be some sort of hatchet, cutting and pruning away the stories, methods, and policies that create pernicious social and environmental outcomes. Political ecology also invites us to re-envision technocultural systems that are not predicated on indicting significant and equitably distributed harms to people and ecosystems. This means, as I already mentioned, terminating the fantasy of infinite economic growth enabled by dematerialized digital technologies on a materially finite planet. It means addressing the substantive social and environmental harms that surround the life cycle of digital technologies, including addressing the ecologically unequal forms of exchange that see low-income nations function as a sources of materials and sinks for toxic waste, while high-income nations profit from selling or allowing access to technologies produced from those materials. So political ecology invites us for some sort of fundamental re-evaluation of what should be produced and how those technologies should be owned, governed, and deployed. It is urging for reorientation of technology, culture, and society toward post-capitalist future where digital ecology does not depend upon the exploitation and degradation of present and future human and non-human life. So we also know that production itself can reveal a set of political relationships which are far from ideologically neutral. They relate to intellectual property, ownership, relationship to government, and to, of course, funding. There are many cases of advertising that are supposedly can or allegedly do influence the content and messages commonly encountered within media text. Where ecology is applied here, it also relates to cultural and creative production, innovation, and information. So given also the relevance and importance of the digital sphere now within the media production, it is very important to examine how the production of digital media and other contemporary ventures involve dynamic networks that form cultural ecologies, which actually function very often analogously to natural ecosystems. I want to stress here in this section still that political ecology is actually emphasizing the entanglement of power and ecosystems, highlighting that technocultural systems are not somehow divorced from natural ecologies. And that is why the degrowth and post-growth positions and discussions that are increasingly present in our societies cannot contend that ecological crisis cannot be resolved without very rapid reduction of CO2 emissions and material use at global level, and that this transition requires a radical redistribution of resources and wealth and a system of planning to enact this. And of course, we know how much the role of finances and wealth is often relevant to back up or to support certain new media projects. While digital technologies are positioned as a central to green growth and find itself quite compatible with the idea of further indefinite growth, degrowth is actually challenging this state of art and dominant narrative and trying to find ways how we can produce without actually risking our sustainable future. And there it very much relies on notion of conviviality, of collaboration, of also of care, which are all values which are central to degrowth and post-growth perspectives, and they try to find ways how we can reorient digital ecologies away from commodification, data valence, and ecological breakdown, which in very often media production stakeholders willingly or unwillingly take part. We of course also know that media industry is extremely carbon and environmentally intensive industry, that carbon footprints of film production, for example, are extremely voluminous, that for example, electricity production or waste output of certain media projects are extremely, huge and voluminous, and that many other activities related to certain media production projects, is it digital or is it, for example, transport related, they bear a huge percentage of the environmental footprint related to the overall resources needed for certain media project. But I'm here actually to think with you together how we can use some of these political ecology premises and thesis in order to find ourselves doing things differently. Of course, that as I'm not coming from the media sector in these narrow terms, I cannot know all details, but through some sort of very brief scan of the whole pre-production and production and post-production cycle, we can focus on many various aspects of the production process and cycle, which can manifest in, for example, reconsidering different travel arrangements and means of transport, not only of the transport of people or animals, but also transport of goods and devices and all related infrastructure. We can also plan our routes differently in order to save, to shorten the distances, and also to economize our travel routes. The waste is extremely important aspect that is emerging in the media production. We have, in some cases, we have tons and tons of various waste that, depending on the location and the state or country where the screening is taking place, is variously managed. But given the responsibility of certain production constellation, there is a huge, of course, responsibility to manage waste properly. The whole material throughput, which I have mentioned at the beginning, and all sorts of resources which are present, that include also energy and slash electricity, are very often of the extremely high volume and intensity, so they require serious reconsideration how certain output or result can be done with less resources spent and consumed. Of course, that the life cycle of devices and potential for sharing or circularity involved in using devices at different places multiple times, also taking care of the repairing options of the devices. When I say devices, I think of all sorts of course, technology or techniques behind certain that is carrying structure and executing structure actually of the certain media project. So the life cycle and the potential circularity is extremely important, and we need to, of course, take care of how often and how long we use and can use certain devices. Of course, that work, as I mentioned earlier, not only nature and ecosystem, but ensuring that the place of work is safe working space, that there is a decent work conditions, that there is a quality of work, that it's not precarious, that working hours are, so to say, ensure livable or sustainable life for the people. That's all, of course, sometimes put aside when there are certain deadlines, but generally it is really important to focus on these social aspects of the media production, where the issue of time and issue of life quality are very increasingly important. Very often it's also about impact on local communities. Is it related to the irreversible impact that stays afterwards, after certain media project taking place at certain location, but it's also about ensuring that there are no detrimental impacts, that there is ownership of local community, that there is willingness of local community to take part and to participate at fair level with the producers. And of course, it leads us to the notion of some sort of compliance with sustainable practices across all departments. So all departments involved and all stakeholders somehow need to coordinate in order to orchestrate these sustainable practices among themselves and to find mutual for the mutual benefits. We of course are aware that there is a lot of resources involved that are also related to material resources of certain, for example, costumes or paper or various devices involved that are sometimes used only once. These type of practices, of course, are intolerable or more or less could not find appropriate anymore, given the scarcity of resources and the some sort of call for resource efficiency. So within media production, we of course see that there is some sort of trend of increasing the sustainability, but still kind of slowly and lagging behind. I want to stress here, of course, that all these aspects have to be kind of present both in pre-production and production phase, and at all levels of filmmaking through collaborative and cooperative forms wherever possible. And the whole idea of trying to, so to say, degrow or implement some resource efficient or sufficient practices within the production of certain, is it a movie or another type of media production, this should be there from the very beginning, and everyone would have to be involved. There are still certain, of course, tensions and controversies, which I find quite interesting for discussion and to open some avenues for later conversation. We very often hear green and digital, or digital is green, but we are all quite aware that the environmental footprint of the digital and resource intensity of the digitalization is extremely high. There is a lot of water or energy use of digital technology. So the prevailing digitalization in the media production does not really make it very sustainable or much greener. We, of course, the transport or travel is really like a big topic within the media production that often takes place in different locations, and any kind of constraint on the travel is always perceived as some sort of blocking our individual freedoms or our comfort. Still, the travel that is and the transport within the media production is still very much responsible for around a third of the environmental footprint of within the media production globally. So any type of consideration where we also consider different levels why we are choosing certain location and how actually we are behaving there and what we are leaving to this community. It's not, of course, only about the emissions or waste or pollution. It's also about the some permanent impact which is present or which is left after certain projects. Culture of sharing, particularly sharing of resources or borrowing of resources, is of course present at the more at the level of low budget media production, but certainly the culture of sharing is something that needs to be explored in order not to have too much of one shot or single use moments with resources of devices. And of course that at some sort of systemic level, we would need much more thorough and systemic or monitoring or observatory of how much of footprint is, of course, a result of the media production, and what we actually, how much, if we have certain success with certain media project that is opening minds or is being inspiring or is like great artistic work, we also have to see what we have done on another side, and if we have been following some values that go along with a sort of artistic excellence or any type of originality. We always have to come back to see how if resources have been used sufficiently and efficiently, and we can always bear in mind, we have to bear in mind actually that we also bear responsibility to somehow cultivate or nudge or educate our audiences to behave more sustainably. And I know I'm quite aware that this is not this is another type of media production. This is actually an image from the Massive Attack concert. For example, Massive Attack is really one of the examples where in music industry they are trying to, so to say, walk the talk, and with all sorts of interventions and measures. They are, for example, trying to make their concerts be zero footprint or very low environmental footprint, with also taking into account the behavioral patterns of their audience, suggesting that, for example, audience could use public transport or bike to come to the concert and be in some way rewarded for this type of behavior or not. So in the media production, I don't see still this type of a sort of pioneering efforts that are visible at very global level. There are, of course, certain protagonists with these messages, but also, and here in this case, I didn't want to stress something that is self-evident, but that also the content of the media production itself needs to tackle the aspects of the climate crisis and also of the political motivations and reasons and relations that are different political conjunctures that are behind certain decisions to start or with certain media project. So ending here with massive attack as example, I would like to end here and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vedran, for your exhaustive overview of some of the political ecology's, let's say, urgent or main topics. So I open the floor. Anyone wanting to pose a question or comment on some of the topics discussed here and presented here? You can, of course, use. Well, while we're waiting, I would like to pose a question, rather hypothetical, but quite often heard in the, let's say, artistic circles, at least in Croatia, as being one peripheral, not too developed country with not too developed film industry. Quite often when I discuss with my colleagues about these new, let's say, ecological requirements that should be met in the future, they usually have the same response, and that is we are already poor and we don't have enough money, and if we get forced to meet these psychological criteria, we'll have even less money for producing a film. What would be your suggestion for such type of kind of doomerist attitude developed by some, like, let's say, circles? Is it possible, or is it advisable to rethink their strategies and their artistic methodologies to meet the obviously very needed changes in the functioning in the production, be it in other aspects of society, but precisely in the artistic community, in the making and production of films?
Yeah, I understand. I have also the same experience when talking to filmmakers and producers, but I also have some experience with lately talking to, let's say, theater actors and theater producers, and also cultural artists who are, going to different residencies, and is it a musical artist or any other type? So it's not applied only to let's say, to narrowly speaking media production, but also more broadly in the culture. And I understand their hesitance and reluctance to actually accept this type of constraints, which they as you say, they find themselves, feel themselves anyhow poor, and now they think that ecology will be some sort of argument to make them even more poorer or even more miserable. And I would say that there are, at least, I mean, there is no final answer on that, but it very often depends on their own attitudes. One attitude is, of course, it's kind of very comfortable attitude that actually implies that that you have to take a flight and not a train. Of course, in some cases, like in this part of Europe, there are not too many trains or train lines, so sometimes you really need to take a plane. But Europe-wise, and I maybe talk about this at European level because you are dealing with the European project. Here, I think that there should be some sort of systemic introduction that is I would say, able that is doable on certain systemic level, where those who are providing funds need to actually introduce various changes in order, for example, to enable, let's say, slow travel, or taking other means of travel, for example, or allowing more funds for something that would not, for example, if you have a slow travel, you can also have, for example, longer stay somewhere, and there you can leave something to the local community or integrate your work much better in a local community. I want to say that this attitude, this mixture of some sort of, I would say, more passive attitude, where you are some sort of victim of the system and you cannot change the system of the funding, and because fundraising is extremely challenging. And then if you even find funds, then you need to be very, you need to save a lot of money on these type of constraints, where you see ecology as just another burden and not actually something that you actually join, and where you actually can have proactive role together, maybe with other producers, and maybe engage in some type of lobbying, or how to say, influencing funders to change the patterns. As I say, it's maybe still, I would not say naive, but it's quite difficult to actually win this without having a very strong collective voice of different, producers in the industry that are, but the precondition is that they don't see themselves that as a burden or constraint, which I think is still very not the case. And I think that there is a need of some very deep work with this industry to acknowledge that their own industry will also collapse in case they will not be if they will be depending on this pro growth narrative, where they actually if there is growth, then there will be media production. This type of dependence. There will be money. There will be a surplus of money, and this surplus of money will be there in order to be divided among certain clients in the media sector, and probably most strongest. So there is a lot of this, some sort of survivalism and Darwinism, so social Darwinism within the sector, which prevents more solidarity and collaboration. That is actually the basis, one of the bases, not exclusively, but one of the bases for some type, of course, maybe not all, but some type of collective bargaining against or toward the institutions or the funders. Is it the state or private funders or foundations or European Commission or whoever it is, to argue and to advocate a different structure of funding that would allow these things to be really, that you can walk the talk, that you actually, if they give you maybe less funds for some resources or some equipment, maybe they will allow you more time, or more paid time, or more for creativity, or for maybe different phases of pre-production, or whatever you find necessary. But certainly more flexibility that follows the sustainability principles. Yeah, I don't have a final answer there, because I find it very difficult to target certain profession or certain group as that they have to be victims of the ecological transition, because everybody, and as there was this image, we are all in this together. But we are all in this together, but we of course have very different positions, and not everyone is in the same boat. But just for that reason, we of course need to kind of find ways how we can collectivize these efforts, and be aware, because I would expect from the cultural workers and artists and media professionals that they are aware that they are also finding themselves in very facing very unsustainable future. And even on the content level, some of the content produced there should also tell this story and bring this message forward. And if you're bringing this message forward, you also need to walk the talk with your practices, and you cannot talk about some post-apocalyptic scenario, or talk about environmental sustainability, or without actually trying to introduce as many as possible such interventions in your own work.
Yeah, that sums up the general guidelines that, well, are strongly advised, but still, at least in Croatia, and I guess in other, let's say, peripheral states, are still in this kind of very initial stages of development due to various reasons. But one of those is also this kind of methodological inertia or conformity, not willing to engage with the stronger challenges that this kind of strong transitions toward the more ecologically sustainable practices require. Okay, thank you, Vedran. This was, I thank you for your presentation and for your comments. I hope they were inspiring for definitely for all of us, but definitely for students who are just entering the field and who will definitely have to deal with those issues in their future career in the artistic field. Okay, this was it. As you can see, maybe in chat, someone is thanking you. I would like now to go to our second presenter, Morana. I'll shortly introduce her as I did with Vedran. Morana is producer and author with more than 20 years of experience in the audiovisual industry. She mostly produces other people's creative ideas, although her debut film, Naked Soul, was shown at the Sundance Film Festival in 2001, and she occasionally receives awards for her work. The last international project she produced was The Golden Thread by Nishta Jain, which was declared the best international film in India in 2024 at the prestigious Mumbai Film Festival. For about 10 years, she led a recognizable documentary production, Fade In, and gained international experience as co-producer, mentor, acquisition manager, and decision maker at Taskovsky Film from London. She founded Little Red Dot in 2018 and mostly works on the development of international co-productions, transmedia projects, education, and empowerment programs. She often collaborates with Creative Europe Desk, Media Croatia office, the Croatian Audiovisual Center, and Eurimage. She is a member of the EVE Expert Network and an active member of the Board of Directors of the Filmmakers Association of Croatia and president of the production branch. She teaches the course Financing in the Media at Academy of Dramatic Arts in Zagreb. So, Morana, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will just share my screen for a second here. Okay, I hope the technical aspect is okay. You can.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see some of you again. We met at the kickoff meeting in Uj a couple of years ago, and I'm very glad to see that your project is really going on as planned, and it makes me really happy. In terms of what Vedran was saying, my colleague from college, because we both studied sociology at the time, I just wanted to give a focal point, to share this focal point of my presentation. I will be speaking as a producer, but I will also be sharing with you some of the outlines of the strategy that we've been working on as the Eurimage working group, sustainability working group in the last couple of years. And I wanted to emphasize that sustainability is not only cost, as Goran mentioned, that some of our colleagues are concerned, but it's also a way to save money and to be responsible with our budgets. Some of the case studies in Denmark showed that some big media projects and projects that are produced by big production companies actually save almost like 62% of their own budgets when they turned into greener and more sustainable production, because the green and sustainable production means that you are holistically budgeting your projects. That okay, maybe initially you will have more cost in, for example, introducing electronic vehicles, or shopping locally. That is often more expensive initially, but if you combine different budget lines and combine different actions on set, you will end up after a while saving your budgets and saving your money in terms that you are not experienced right now, when we are just running around and just trying to put off fires in our productions, when we do it like really strongly budget based in production without planning and risk assessment as one does when we talk about sustainability in pre-production and in preparation. Okay, so I will be talking about social sustainability, which is a crucial aspect of production. When we talk about carbon footprint and when we talk about ecological aspects of our actions, we talk about environment, and we talk about the nature, and we talk about climate, and we talk about maybe the social impact of climate change, but we are not really talking about how this our actions of ours impact our creative community, our core community in our projects, the local community where our projects are based, and how our actions and decisions are affecting our everyday working hours on set. So my focus today will be this soft aspect of film production and media production. In order to prepare for this in this meeting of ours today, I decided to talk about more broader, not only film production, but cultural production in general, in terms of creative industries. And I will talk about equity in terms of fairness and justice, integration, diversity, empowerment, and please bear in mind that I will be talking about my own experience, not only what we learned. Okay, so I asked around. I asked people in my own community. I asked my nieces, my neighbors, and my aunts, what do they think when they hear social sustainability, right? So my niece Lana, she's 7 years old, she said helping people. She said it's like when we share our toys so everyone has a turn and no one feels left out, right? It's a genuine point of view. Marchi, my other niece, she lived in Amsterdam until recently. She's 12 years old. She says kindness. She says that social sustainability is being nice to everyone, making sure no one is lonely or sad, right? Tone, which is a half brother of my daughter, he says sharing, right? Like when we all take turns using the crayon so everyone gets to draw. Then my mother, she is 81. She's from her own like elderly perspective saying that social sustainability is caring for others. Maybe it's about being mindful of how we treat each other and making sure no one gets hurt or left behind. Everybody has hers or his own concerns, right? And my aunt Anna, she's 89. She says community well-being. It probably means making sure people live together happily, like working together in a team to solve problems, right? So my colleagues are being more skeptical, as Goran already mentioned. They say, Marin, 39, he says that social sustainability is corporate jargon. He says It's just another buzzword companies use to sound good without actually doing anything, right? And then Tibor, a former student, says that social sustainability is European figment or tale. It's a fairy tale, a bureaucratic fabrication of idle Europe without any real effect. This bureaucratic apparatus must justify itself. Everybody is afraid of being imposed with different actions that they don't feel comfortable with. Lucia says it's empty promises. She says it probably means a bunch of talk about doing good things, but at the end of the day, it's just a way to sell more stuff while pretending to care about people with no real impact and no real action. But bear in mind that these thoughts are being shared when we talked about social strategies, sustainability strategies, because we talked about how we will have to deal with the new regulations that are coming from our European funders, that we will have to be able to provide sustainability strategies in which we will have to be accountable as producers of different aspects of our work, not only about our environmental impact, but also with our social impact. But some of the colleagues also said that social sustainability means stability, means also peace, and means also togetherness. So I guess this is a good point to talk about where I come from and what is my background in terms of social sustainability. This is an image, my high school image in my hometown in Rijeka during war times. I think it's 1991. In the aftermath of this very impactful times in Croatia, where we had the transition of one political system to another, we were left with the ruins of the social fabrics of two different societies, and we were concentrated on how to rebuild the social tissues between people who were torn. And we as kids, I think in this photo I am 16, we kind of picked up really quickly on our own skin what it means to integrate people coming from war zones in our classrooms, what it means to comprehend the different cultural aspects of different communities that were coming to our cities, different languages and different experiences. So upon that experience, we started work on different NGOs, providing creative workshops for kids, refugees, kids that were victims of war, with different aspects of creative work. So one of the initiatives, you can see an image here, was called Peace School in Mrkopalj, which is a mountainous area in Croatia, Gorski Kotar, which avoided war by actively living peace then. And we were actively taking part also with the kids of different nationalities, working in a creative process and dealing with the social tissue of our societies. Later on, with my film work, especially as I was dealing mostly with documentaries, I integrated those issues and integrated those topics in communicating ideas through film mostly, but also through television. After a while, I felt that we were like visiting local ecosystems and picking up on different stories, but then leaving and not leaving anything behind. Expectations of the people that we were filming were really high. And what we were able to give them at a specific moment was only visibility and maybe some kind of limited experience of being part of an artistic process, but nothing more. We were not advocating outside the 5-minute space on TV or the 85 or 26-minute space of our films. After a while, I began producing in a more sustainable way. I started to think about what is this impact that we as producers are leaving in our ecosystems, and what is the responsibility that we all have, not only because our industry is taking a big impact on the overall state of the planet, because the creative industries have a really small percentage when you think about the construction or the energy sector or transportation, the building sector. We have a really small percentage, but we have a strong voice. We tend to strongly voice our opinions and to change the way that people think. Our media products speak volumes more than maybe a newsletter of a construction company, right? So we have this opportunity to voice and different concerns, to show good examples in our work, and to give back more than just human stories, to give back stories with meaning, not only through content, but also through the impact of our own actions. A couple of years ago, I was part of a workshop of a Finnish group of producers, and they said that talking about climate and talking about the impact that we as individuals make on our planet is an intimate question, because it gives an insight on the way that we live our lives, on the costs that we have, on our economic status, of the status of human rights in our societies, and different aspects of our intimate circle that maybe some of us are not willing to share. But as producers that have responsibility for our team, but also for our protagonists, but also for our topics that we deal in a creative way, we have to pose that question, and we have to be truthful with the answer. So when this doesn't work, when we are not being able to be true to ourselves, there is the European Union, right? And there is the contracts. So what really made an impact on our own industry is the Paris Agreement, right, in 2015, and the European Green Deal, right? You already, I hope, talked with the students about these two core documents of our industries. The documents are basically agreements between the states of the European Union coming together and saying, okay, we will fight climate change, and this will spread across the different activities and different industries that we tackle. Our creative industry is somehow falling behind. At the moment of the European Green Deal, our president, right, Ursula von der Leyen, she says that if we reach our carbon neutrality, and if we reach what we said in these agreements, it would be mostly as it would be the equivalent as a human being stepping on the moon, as an astronaut step, right? The astronauts in Croatia, I don't know, maybe in some other countries, has fallen asleep, and it's really slowly getting up. It's not getting up on its own free will. It's getting up because we have to, because we are conditioned by the European agreements, and we are being conditioned by European funds. At Euroimage, we are at the working group already discussing how to implement these different aspects of the agreement in the funding system. Media is already doing it. The Creative Europe system is already evaluating your own strategies, and in a very near future, you will not gain the financial incentives or the financial or the fundings without really implementing the strategies that you will write in your applications. So I will shortly, Vedran was saying, and he was explaining the different aspects of sustainability, but what is it that the strategy asks us? And what is it that we write in these strategies? And what is the certification process of our work asking us? They're asking us about catering, about how we supply. Where do we get our supplies for catering and craft? Is it local? Do we ship the ingredients? Do we use the local produce? And what is the transportation time for this produce to come to the restaurant and to our set? Do we use reusable materials when we eat, and so on? And so do we eat at a restaurant, or is the food coming to us? What is the aspect of the energy consumption in terms of equipment? Do we use generators fueled by diesel? Do we use solar or hydrogen generators? And do we use electric vehicles, and these different aspects like that? And also materials that we use building on set, our set. How do we distribute our budget, and how do we communicate what we do within the team and outside the team? But one thing that is fairly new, and that is the most, I think, that has the most human face, is the question about social sustainability. Sorry, this is okay. And this is the aspect that I will be talking about today. I don't know if you talked about the certification process, but the certification process of our work, audiovisual work, but also other creative works, is a process where we evaluate the different actions that we undertake in our production in these different aspects of action. There is a really narrow step, a really close step between social sustainability and environmental radicalism. And we have to be aware there are different groups right now that are advocating advocating the creative sector to be aware of this fragile balance between radicalism and fair action. And we as producers must be aware that the steps that we take in terms of sustainability must be in harmonization with the needs of the people that we work with and with the communities that we are working within. And we as producers must be responsible for the actions that we undertake. I mean, sometimes you have to really be aware of your own impact sphere, and to act within what you identified as your own space that you can influence. And then we can talk about social sustainability when we identify what are those aspects and what are we comfortable with. So when we talk about production and social sustainability, that means labor practices, right? Aim to improving sustainability of production from a social point of view. And that means that we have to take into account different members of our teams, different aspects of their identities, their livelihoods, their own aspects of being themselves in terms of also different cultural aspects, and try to take into account that these people will need to be in the sphere of safety and healthy environment, that we as producers, we must prevent any risks in terms of discrimination or risky behavior on set, but also be aware that we need to nourish their well-being at every step of the way. So this means that we have to implement different actions. And we right now, when that we have different calculators and different certification agencies available in Europe right now, and you can find some packages of they have already prepared of what you can do right now in your own productions, a set of tools, different online tools, different concrete resources of learning, and different partners, local partners that you can contact and do your project together. But the most important thing that we as productions can do without any money and resources is take into the focus each one individual in your team, and declare the production as a human-oriented production with two simple tools. And one is the charter of values of a production. We can, write down our specific charter of values at the beginning of our preparation for our production, and be advocating the different positive aspects of these decisions, communicated very clearly to our partners, but also to our team. It can be also a code of ethics, whatever you decide, what is best and what is in the best nature of your production. But it's a small step. It's maybe some of the colleagues of mine maybe say it's a cosmetic step, but I think it's something that if we communicate it loud enough and clearly enough, empowers people not only to feel more secure, but maybe to find their own voice, to advocate their own problems, to find themselves in a position to be viewed as an individual, and to be maybe by declaration at this point taken into account, and us as producers saying to the team member or to the local community, we see you and we want you to feel safe, and we will take these steps in order to guard your well-being. Okay. There is some documents right now in place in the European Union that you can adopt. The Italian Women in Film, Television and Media Guild, they have established these rules of ethical behavior in the audiovisual field that you can also apply in your production. You can also write to them and maybe write a letter of commitment and say, okay, we are applying this document, and then communicate it also on the outside, not only to your team members, but also as a advocation of your artistic project, as one of the aspects that you as producer feel that it's important to communicate. The BAFTA, the Albert BAFTA system also has developed with some partners some toolkits that are digital available to you. On this website, you can find different testimonials of producers or different head of departments sharing their own experiences with mental health issues, and how they tackled the crisis, the post-COVID crisis within their teams, and what are the small steps that you can undertake to prevent some of the difficulties on set, and how to nourish the well-being of your team and collaborators with these digital tools, also in different stages of production, in pre-production and post-production and so on. They can help you with that. Some of these tools are free, and some of these, like the Call It tool, it's not free, but it's a system put in place for giving feedback from your team on different and various important aspects of their own work. But I recommend, to use also some of the not so fancy in terms of many tools that we already have available, in terms of Google Forms, for example, that you can put in place for your production and say, okay, this is a way to communicate anonymously, whatever is bothering you, and we can talk about it, and we can go through it every morning on our production meetings and whatever. What is at the core of social sustainability is feedback right from your team and communication. You know, what are your values and what are you as producers nourishing and what are you not tolerating at all. But also, okay, these are some of the tools that you have available. I've written it down, so you will have it in this presentation. The green film tool has the criterias of social sustainability really well written down, and it's really easy to navigate. So if you need more information, you can go there. So what we communicate within, it's also relevant, but it's really relevant what we communicate in our surroundings. It means with our partners and also with the communities that we work in, and what is our impact on that. One of the projects that I've been working in structuring the sustainability strategy and also the social sustainability is a creation project called God Will Not Help. And this project was set in a mountainous and very poor area of Croatia, where there was a lot of really deteriorated houses, sheep hoarders made by dry stone walls, and the production decided first to have people who are very well skilled in rebuilding the dry wall stoned houses, to come to the set and to educate our not only the production designers, but also, you know, whoever from the team was interested, to give a short workshop of how to use traditional skills in these terms of landscape architecture and traditional building. And this was something that we made as a social sustainability impact of our project, because we empowered our own collaborators and interested parties within the film to broaden their own skills and to, you know, to connect them with their own heritage, to connect them with the local community. There was another thing that we wanted to build biodegradable and toilets, right? In order not to disrupt the ecosystem we were filming, not to, you know, bring on the set the toy plastic little houses. But this was something that was not doable for us, because the building of these biodegradable spots, toilets, were very inconvenient for the main actress, who had this big gown around herself, and she needed to walk to the biodegradable toilet and back, and it was really hard to do. So we said, okay, our sphere of influence was limited, and we are not able to provide something that is good for the environment, but it's really bad for our actress and her own well-being, and it's really bad for our scheduling and so on. So we decided not to influence the environment in that way, right? So it's all about question of balance of our sphere of influence, and you as producers are in the position to decide and to take this balance into account. Another project that is really funny and dear to me, it's a project happening in Manchester, where they also wanted to this local cinema in Manchester, they wanted to address the bee problem in Manchester, where the bees were really endangered, and the whole city was kind of, you know, putting on different bee mosaics or different bee interventions in the space in order to raise awareness, blah blah. And then the Manchester cinema decided to go a step further and to educate the people working at the tickets office, for example, who were like low educated, and they gave the cinema paid for their education to become beekeepers and to be able to produce their own honey. So they invested not only in the campaign, but they invested into human skills to empower their own workers, and on one aspect, and on the other, to take an active part into into solving the bee problem in their city. So this picture, you can see the two of the cinema workers very proudly cultivating honey on the rooftop of the location of the cinema. So this is something that is creative, that also advocates, and it was a big campaign, but also had a direct impact on the lives of the team of the cinema, of the workers of the cinema. Oops. Okay. I'm also working closely, and I'm one of the authors of the Museum of Personal Stories. This is a museum based in the eastern part of Croatia called Osijek. It's a post-war zone, and it's a city that probably has 21 different ethnicities and people of different nationalities living there. And the museum captures their own personal stories of different groups, not only through audiovisual works, but also through different objects and photographs and photo interventions. And we decided to make the project more social sustainable by actively involving the protagonists of the local. This is example of the Roma community that we filmed as production assistants, drivers, runners, and they all got their own the different knowledges and skills they didn't have before. Some of them, mostly girls, I should say, they wanted to work as journalists, so they were actively involved in research process and working with professional directors and professional other crew members that were involved in the project. And in this sense, we came to the local community and we took out stories. We advocated the stories through our artistic work, but we left behind a group of empowered people with we provided them with skills that they were not able to gain anywhere else, because these young people were unemployed, undereducated, and most of the time they felt not really at ease coming to the employment office to ask for more education. They simply felt that their place is stuck in this social scale, and this artistic project provided them with with some skills, and we tried to bring them back on different also projects that we did with the Jewish community in Osijek and with the textile workers there, and so on and so off. So this is also one of the examples of where the production was aware of the community. The production was based. So by the end of this expose of mine, I would invite you to observe and to listen to your people in the teams, but also to observe and listen to the people surrounding your project, to plan ahead and also to communicate also the concerns, but to communicate the values, not only to solve problems, because as producers we often communicate when we have a problem, but we need to communicate also the good aspects and the good ideas and the empowering moments within our production. And following up on the listen part, you just have to be able to adapt and to change, and also to partner up, to try to find in the surroundings of the ecosystem of your project, to find partners to empower the project and to be able to build upon different experiences in a more strongful and meaningful way, and not to be alone in this process, but rather work upon your networks and identifying different partners. Okay, this is an image of a 1 ton of CO2. We talk about, you know, the CO2 emission and the carbon footprint, and this is fine and it's okay, and this is in the mainstream communication. But I think that we also have to start talking about the soft fabric of the CO2 emission and to talk about the social aspect of this aftermath of our activities. And this is the human relation. Okay. Thank you for your attention. This is my email if you should have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Morna, for this great overview of your experiences and practices that are really reality-based. I think it's a good combination with Vedran's more theoretical observations and now contrasted with your concrete and rather inspiring examples from your production experience. Unfortunately, we're not left any more time for the questions. People have your email in case they need or want to find out anything more. I would like to thank all the participants for attending today's lectures. I hope they learned quite a lot about, well, not so usual aspects that we're dealing here in our series. And we invite everyone for the next meeting, which will take place in 2 weeks on November the 19th. We'll send shortly the complete invitation with the short descriptions of the presenters and hope to meet you there. Do you have any kind of comments or final remark or something? Well, if not, I would like to thank you once more. Our time is running up, so thank you, have a good evening, and see you on another occasion with our green screen lectures. Bye-bye, and thank you for all.
Bye.
Thank you for the presentation. It was great. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.